Hello everyone, welcome to the round 2 live stream preview. Hopefully you all can hear me. You all should be able to hear me according to my laptop settings. Apologies for the slight delay, a bit of tech issues, change of internet, my internet and my computer. Hopefully they don't act like Sydney trains, which was an absolute car crash this afternoon. To any of my Sydney siders, you all probably understand if you are commuting from the city today. Absolute nightmare, but look, made it home. Ready to talk some SuperCoach. So thank you all for joining me on this Wednesday, and apologies, wasn't able to go live yesterday, just some personal commitments, but yeah, still here for round 2 on this Wednesday evening. So thanks to Tyler, Toolpro, Chumpy, Incentia, Moz, Mark, Costa, Bailey, Jeff, Footy Edits 09, Jerry, Ian. Thanks for everyone for joining this stream tonight. So we'll go through obviously your kind of questions and some of the hot topics for the week. Bit of an interesting week trade-wise, kind of hard to understand, who's right to sell, who do we need to hold on to, who do we need more information from. So hopefully we tackle all of those issues during the stream. And we'll obviously take a look at captaincy. I actually had some tech issues where I wasn't able to show my web browser. So if I'm not able to show my team, that's the reason why. I'm not trying to hide anything. But to be honest, I actually think I might be saving trades this week in any case. So the team that I showed last week is probably going to be identical to this week, most likely, but we'll work through all of that. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Let's get straight into it so we don't have to keep everyone delayed for too long. So I guess I'll quickly give you an update how I went. So 1089 last week, which is a rank of about 22,000, which I'm fine with. I think most of the guys who I picked went okay. A couple of people who I'm probably looking to maybe move on next week, or I want to watch again for another week, but yeah, round 1 ranks don't really mean too much. Obviously, at this stage, everyone is so compressed together. A captaincy change from Tedesco, who I did captain, to Turbo, that's an extra 40 points, and I'm probably in the top 5,000 or something. So very easy to swing at this point, but yeah, not too concerned, I guess, at this stage. And before I also press on, I wanted to give a quick shout out as well to the group. So if you're not in the group as well, the league, the code is below me, 421648. Still working on some, trying to get some prizes sorted out for you guys, but so definitely still join. What I will mention though is eventually when I do look at kind of organizing final prizes, it'll probably only be for players who have joined or had their team active since round 1. And I'll probably have a cutoff of maybe round 4 or 5 for new players, but yeah, we'll work that out. So still get cracking and join the group. Actually wanted to give a shout out as well to Taylor from Hudson Hornets. He had the second high score of the week, so he's ranked 2nd overall rank. So pretty cool that he's in the group. So Taylor, well done. You were probably only a few points off getting that $1,000 in the first week, which would have been awesome. But yeah, top 10 in our group are all in the top 500. So had a very, very good start. And they probably loaded up on Manly players, as Incentia says, Manly cheat code round 1. And obviously, as you guys are watching the stream, and if you do enjoy it, do please give it a thumbs up as well. All right, so first thing I wanted to tackle this week was just, I think, the whole thing around trades and like, do you hold, do you sell? I think it's just worth reiterating this as well. I mentioned it last week. It's really important to remember that price changes, break-evens are most impacted based on the round 2 and round 3 scores moving forward. Actually, the round 3 score is the most important for the price change. So based on the calculation of a 3-round rolling average, round 1 is actually the least important for price changes. And I went through this last week, but I think it's worth reiterating. So I think even if a guy that you didn't go on got like a big score and you kind of feel thin, you want to bring them in, or there's a cheapie that you're 50-50 on, but they've done really well, someone like a Sarko, Tabuai Fido, just remember that their round 1 score is the least important for their first price change. So it's actually more important to see how they go this week. If a Sarko, for example, bangs out another 100, then obviously he's set to make a lot more cash than probably what you would have expected. So that's something I would just, again, keep in mind so you can kind of just relax, no need to rage trade or panic trade. Round 1 is the least important for these guys for their price changes, which is obviously very, very important for the beginning of the season. But we just want to, make sure that you keep that in mind as well with the price changes. So in terms of the next slide, so I kind of wanted to put all this together because I think there's a lot of people, like a lot of the questions I got on Twitter, and thank you so much for asking all of those. It was really helpful. A lot of players, thinking about selling a lot of the guys in the hold list. A lot of people are interested in guys in the watch list. So what I've tried to do is kind of separate it into some of the players who I think are probably more highly owned, who people maybe kind of itchy fingers, maybe looking to sell this week. The watch list is some of the buyers who I think people are looking to buy, or they're players who, I didn't go with personally, and I want to have another week of information to watch. And then I've got a few players who I do think are sells. I think this week, you've probably heard this on other podcasts that you've already heard to this point, but I'd say we still need to get a lot of information, and so waiting this week to do your trades in terms of trying to get more information is important. What I will say about that whole trade situation though is there are a few players who I've highlighted in blue who I think are fine to hold, but personally I would be more comfortable selling, but I just haven't quite got them in the hard sell list because someone like Munster, Matt Lodge, who are injured, for example, Tour Pros are seeing he owns Matt Lodge and he should be out for something like 4 to 6 weeks. And is looking for trade-in options. Guys like that who have been injury affected, especially someone like Munster who's high value, does, in my opinion, make more sense just to sell. And someone like a Raystone, a few people might have started with him on their bench. He's actually been named out. He's not been named in the 17. So again, that probably gives you an easy excuse to move to someone like maybe a Jackson Ford, maybe a Bryce Cartwright, things like that. So those are the 3 guys who I think are fairly easy to sell. And the 3 highlighted ones in blue, Pele, Luke Garner, and Matt Burton. So I'll kind of go through some of my reasoning as to why I think they are okay to sell, but very easily could also be a hold. There were a lot of questions about Matt Burton as well. Do we hold or do we sell? So I've also got in the popular trades actually for the round. So you can see Adam Dewey very highly traded in for Munster and Matt Burton. If you don't own Adam Dewey and you own Matt Burton and you've got the money to make that move in one trade, to be honest, I do think it is worth moving on Burton to Dewey this week. I prefer Dewey coming into the season. Bulldogs they got outplayed obviously by a very good Manly team, and they do face Melbourne away this week. Granted, Melbourne will be a little bit weaker without Munster, so I think it really comes down to when you started with Matt Burton, you kind of knew that this maybe could happen where he doesn't do so well. And so you kind of just have to assess, are you willing to hold him longer term? I personally would be keen to move him to Dewey though, because I do think Dewey is a better option. And Dewey has the Knights this week, and I think he's got the Bulldogs next week from memory. So he's got a nice couple of games coming up as well. And I do think Dewey is close to a captain option as well this week. So I feel like there are enough factors where I'd say Burton to Dewey, I'd be feeling okay doing it. To any other option though for Burton sells, I probably don't love it. So for example, I'm looking at this here saying Matt Burton to Ponga. That's probably one where I'd be a bit more iffy on. But to someone like Dewey, I think it's probably good. And I've got a slide as well on Munster replacements, because I know a few people did also message me on Twitter saying that they have Munster. And to be fair, I kind of feel for them because it's pretty unlucky. And also, there's not a whole lot of options actually at 5'8". Maybe halfback if you wanted to go to Cherry Evans. But yeah, someone like Munster to Dewey, if you don't own, is probably a very easy swap, as is the most popular trade. But we'll get onto a couple of 5'8" options as well. So yeah, someone like Burton, I'm kind of okay with. Luke Garner. So I have got a separate slide as well where we will talk a lot more in detail about second row forwards, because there's a lot of questions about second row forwards this week. The likes of Murata Niokore, Egan Butcher, Luke Garner, Josh King, who was very good in the last week. So I've got a slide where I'll go into that in more detail. But as I started putting that slide together, I think there are enough good second row forward options where Hosking is kind of lurking. I don't think Hosking is in the Hosking is not in the 17, but I think I just was listening to the beginning of Beers and Break Evens, and I think Guru mentioned that he will be playing in New South Wales Cup, whereas last week he was purely the 18th man. So yeah. Someone like Garner has maybe got Hosking lurking. Garner played 50 minutes, which is probably a little bit below what we expected. And it's also the round 3 buys, a bit of a factor too. So someone like Garner, moving on to someone like maybe Jackson Ford, maybe Eli Katoa looked pretty good. I think there are a couple of options there where I think if I was owning Garner, I would be okay making a move out this week too. And another reason is also because, next week is very likely going to be a boost week, I think, for a lot of us, where we'll use 3 trades to maximize kind of bringing in players who are going to set to make money. And so I think if you can get ahead of that, if there's a trade that you feel that you can make this week that will help you fix your team, it allows you still to have those 3 trades next week. So that's something that would, is also really important to remember. So that's, if there's any 1-2 trades that you think can generally fix your team, it's good to do it this week, because early parts of the season, I think it's fine to start, going heavy on trades, bringing in the guys who are going to rise up in price, getting ahead of the curve, and then you can kind of start to consolidate later in the season. And the other one is Pele. So I think someone mentioned it in the chat as well. It's Clone Commander. He says, I wouldn't hold Pele, only going to go down in price. Now, Pele is like 216k, so yes, he could go down in price, but he is close to almost bottom dollar. Like 8-9 minutes he played? It was something crazy where he barely played, even despite the Bulldogs having all these issues with their middle forwards. So really weird with what happened with Pele in minutes. So I kind of want to wait a week. I already own Mawali. I feel like Mawali is probably one of the players who I think, if you had the money, I'd be okay doing Pele to Mawali, because it's easy to say I want to wait and watch and see how Pele's minutes are going to go. But with Mawali, who's had a good 43, again this week, the Rabbitohs, I think they don't have Totola or Jai Arrow in their 17. I will just double check that before I start making up stuff. And it's a tough game versus the Panthers, so you can see it kind of being tight, a lot of middle forwards. Yeah, so no Jai Arrow, no Tafita Totola. You've got Mawali, Shaq Mitchell, Jed Cartwright and Blake Taff on the bench, with Saluka Fafita and Tom Burgess as the starting forwards. So I don't really see a lot of minutes there. So I think someone like Mawali could, again, play decent minutes, could be a decent score there as well. Same with Shaq Mitchell. Although Shaq Mitchell, I want to kind of wait and see a little bit more as well, because the minutes were definitely inflated for the Rabbitohs forwards in general, with Totola getting HIA'd so early in the game, and then also Jai Arrow leaving fairly early on as well. So those are kind of why Shaq and Mawali are on the watch list. I'd probably prefer Mawali because I think he got promoted to starting actually in the team lists come kickoff, which is probably a good sign as well. So yeah, someone like Pele to Mawali I'm okay with. So those three players I think are all kind of ones who I think fine to hold this week, reassess, but I'm also okay with sells. Pretty much everyone else on that whole list though I think is worthy to keep in your team for another week. Nia Corey, I want to see the minutes again. Egan Butcher, we'll get into him a little bit earlier, but a little bit later. But without those negative sin bin stats, he would have scored fine. And the Roosters just kind of got ambushed, to be honest. To'o, had a few people asking as well about Brian To'o out. You can see some of the questions that I've listed below me. I pulled those straight from Twitter. So someone like Brian To'o, 43 points purely in base, no real attacking stats. I know right edge is not as desirable for the Panthers, so he's not someone I'm locked into. Like, very easily next week, I think To'o, I could move on. If someone like Nickel Kluksard does well again, I could see myself moving out Brian To'o just to create some funds. It'd be a kind of a unhappy sacrifice, but it might be one that I have to do. Same with Tanner Boyd, got the Dragons this week. Brandon Smith is very popular out as well. You can see in that table, I think he is, a lot of people doing Brandon Smith to Harry Grant. Now, to be honest, if you can do Brandon Smith out for Harry Grant without kind of sacrificing too much elsewhere in your team, I kind of like it. I'm wondering if people are doing like a Brian To'o out to like a Nickel Klukstad, Smith to Grant. I probably don't quite love that, but look, for me, Harry Grant is an absolute weapon. Absolutely love the guy, so I feel like getting someone like Grant in at the expense of To'o, I'd probably be okay with that, just because I know Harry Grant is so good. And To'o's got a buy in round 3, so it kind of makes it a bit easier to sell someone like him. But Khan Pereira, I saw a lot of people asking about selling Khan Pereira. You can see a lot of people doing Khan Pereira to Osako. Personally, that's not one I would be looking to do at all. He's got the Dragons this week. We just saw him score a hat-trick in the preseason trials. Yes, this week it was a bit unfortunate. He scored 5 points, and I played him, which is a bit annoying. But good matchup this week. He's bottom dollar as well, so he could just be one that we need to be patient with as well. He might not make any good money for the next few weeks, but he does look quite good. I like how the Titans are playing in attack. They're looking pretty decent attacking wise, so I think I'm happy enough to stick with him for now. And I think Foran playing on the left hand side does help that side of the field attack wise. The ball just didn't seem to just go to Campero. Sammy scored a double. He's just playing outside of him. One of those times he could score a try. So for me, Campero I don't think is a sell either. Neither is Tommy Talau. I know a few people were selling Tommy Talau. I think a lot of that was with he had a potential injury, but I think he's been named. Good matchup this week against the Knights as well. So again, another one who I think I'd hold on to this week. And same with Teddy and Sam Walker. Now, to be honest, I'm not seeing a lot of people sell these two, but it's more just I wanted to kind of bring it up because in case people got cold feet on the Roosters players. But yeah, pretty big watch list, so I won't go into all of those players. I might just call out some of the ones who I won't go into in more detail later in the stream. So Sonny Luke's one who I haven't really got a specific section on. He is a big watch for me. I think we all saw how the Panthers played with him on the field. He looked really good. Panthers looked much better as well. So if he gets 50-something minutes, I can very easily see myself, I think, going Smith to Sonny Luke in round 4. So this is another thing as well with Burton and Smith. I know a few people are looking to sell this week. You might have to cop one potential price decrease on Smith if he doesn't do very well round 2 or round 3. But remember that Sonny Luke's price won't change until round 4 because he has the buy in round 3. So I think you don't have to look at taking out Smith this week because that might be one that we don't even have to do next week in the kind of big trade week. Something you can do in round 4 instead. That way, even if Smith goes down 20-30k, Sonny Luke's price wouldn't have changed. So you're still making good money doing that downgrade. So again, another reason why I think I'd be holding Smith, and no need to also rush in, I think, on Sonny Luke either. But yeah, he did look good, Sonny Luke, that is. So definitely a big watch for me. I can very easily see myself going Smith to Sonny Luke in round 4 to make some cash as well. Other players, Braden Williami, I don't really have elsewhere in my stream to discuss, but again, he looked pretty solid. I think he's got about 40, 45 without attacking stats, which is not bad for a 234k dual player. So yeah, someone again I'm very interested in. I'll keep an eye on. Murdoch Masila, again another one. If you don't need to sell Pele this week, he could be a better option than Moali. This will be the first game for the Dragons. Murdoch Masila has been named to start on an edge. If he kills it, yeah, he could be someone that we'd be interested in as well. A couple of more pod options here I think I wanted to mention. So Roosters middle forwards are definitely not very plentiful at this stage. Radley could still be out this week. He's been named, but still has to go through the concussion protocols. No Matt Lodge is the big one. So Terrell May has been named on the bench for the Roosters, but he had a pretty decent outing, minutes-wise and also score-wise. So I'm just going to quickly bring it up on my screen. So just bear with me for a second. Filter. Let me search for him. You would think I'd be more prepared. And also, I won't be surprised if there's some issues or errors later in the stream as well, because I pulled this together quite last minute. But yeah, so Terrell May, 253k, scored 36 points. I think he played about 30 something minutes. Let me have a quick look there. Roosters. 27 minutes he played. So that could maybe go up to 35 with Lodge being out of the side. And he had a pretty good PPM, so that maybe can step up to 40, 45 potentially. So maybe another one to keep on the watch list. Again, maybe a potential Pele replacement, because Terrell May is a front row forward in Supercoach. Another one is Michael Cheekham, played I think 80 minutes on an edge for the Rabbitohs. I think he's got about 40, 45. Again, I think he's like 234k. Another one I want to keep an eye on as well, because we saw the Rabbitohs forwards minutes I think were all out of whack with the HIAs and stuff. And then Lockie Miller, I think he's got like 52 points with no major attacking stats. So again, someone I want to keep an eye on if I want to downgrade Toto maybe next week, but I don't want to go all the way down to a cheapie. Maybe Miller is someone I go to who's a little bit cheaper. I think he's in the high 500s. So he's another one who's definitely on my watch list as well. I think as maybe a trade-in for next week, because I do like the Knights to draw as well. So that's my kind of big wrap-up, I think, on a lot of the key players for this week. A few people in the chat saying that I forgot about Pasami Saulo. So yes, I did forget about him. The thing with Pasami though is like, I know he scored well, like I think 45 in 30-ish minutes. But it's just the fact that I think Josh Papali'i will come back sooner rather than later. I just don't know minutes-wise moving forward if he's going to be secure. Whereas Moali, at least I think we knew from round 1 he was going to be a bench forward for the Rabbitohs at least, who was going to get maybe 25 to 30 minutes. So he's a bit more reliable for me moving forward than Pasami. So I think it seems as though there's a couple of other options I think I'd be looking at maybe ahead of Pasami. And apologies guys, I think there's a bit of buffering issue on YouTube, but you still should be able to hear me. So yeah, hopefully that corrects back sooner rather than later. Okay, I'll answer a few of these questions while I wait for that buffering to get back. Sold Garner for Dave Fafita and Matt Burton for Katoa. Looking for Garrick next week. What's your thoughts? I don't mind going for Fafita this week. He's also a decent captain option. And yeah, Burton for Katoa. Yeah, Katoa, look, I mean, the Dolphins were very, very impressive. And so I don't mind that as a money-maker move to set yourself up for Garrick next week. I think that's okay. I don't actually mind that, to be honest. How long is Hines out for? So yeah, this is a really interesting topic. And I think when I speak about Munster later and potential replacements, so Hines is definitely out this week, but Wacko's Whispers tweeted that he expects Hines to only be back in round 5. And this is actually similar to something that Physio said, where he thought he might be out for multiple weeks, like say round 4. So yeah, Hines could be actually quite delayed and coming back into our thinking in only round 5. But then he's got a bye in round 6. So I really don't see Hines coming until maybe round 7 or 8. And then all of a sudden he's like 5-6 weeks away from Origin. Although actually Hines probably shouldn't play Origin this year. We'll see depending on the makeup. Okay, we'll get on to the next section. So this is around some of the cheapy centre wings, who I think there was quite a few questions about. So it's about Nickel Klukstad, Hamiso, and Jermaine Asako, and who would be maybe the best option if you were looking for a downgrade. Ian, just to answer your question real quick, you're saying you're selling Mulatalo. Yeah, look, Mulatalo's got 10 points. Pretty tough matchup this week as well for the Sharks. Yeah, I like the suggestion of Lockie Miller from Clone Commander. I think that Lockie Miller looks like a pretty good pod shout. So yeah, he could be someone good. Maybe someone like Nick Meaney, for example. Nick Meaney did very well. Might take on a greater role now without Munster in the squad. Storm's next 3 are very good too. So someone like Meaney, I like. Miller, maybe a bit more of a pod. So there are probably a couple of options who I would like, I think, if you are looking to switch out Mulatalo. All right. So still getting this buffering message, but still also getting told that I'm still getting the chat coming through, so hopefully it's all good. So yeah, on these cheapy centre wings, so again, I want to wait and see on all 3 of these guys because someone like Asako, who killed it 108 in round 1 last season playing on the wing for the Titans, his average was 36, and I believe he was goal kicking last season, but someone please correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Like historically he has been good, but it's not like the draw's okay for the Dolphins, like the Raiders at home, then it's Newcastle, Broncos and Dragons, so it's not bad. But I feel like round 3 could be a nice little time to bring him in if he does very well again this week. If he goes 100 plus again, look, there's a good chance I'll bring him in purely as a moneymaker, as a kind of a stepping stone to maybe an eventual gun centre who I'd like. Maybe someone like a Garrick, for example. Asako could be a stepping stone cash-wise. Similar with Tabuai Fidow. I mean, Asako's got the lowest break even at minus 35. But remember, the break even this week doesn't really mean too much because it's only really next week when we know for certain that they're set to make a bunch of cash. And so one thing I wanted to point out with Tabuai Fidow is the base was really good this week. 37 points against the Roosters. He had lots and lots of runs. So really high base stats. When you look at someone like Tabuai Fidow, historically an average base of 21. So it's a big outlier, that 37. So I wonder how much of it was due to, the round 1 hype. So yeah, it's going to sound very repetitive, but I want to wait and see. But look, definitely could be an option. And then Nickel Klukstad as well. To be honest, Nickel Klukstad is probably my favorite of the 3. Draw is not great, but he had really solid base stats of 36. And he kind of did what I expected aside from obviously the big attacking stats. 36 in base, add in a few tackle breaks, and he gets you to around that 40, 45. That's kind of what I was thinking from Nickel Klukstad. So again, let's see if he does well this week against Roosters. Is a tough matchup, and as is the round 3 game against the Cowboys away. He's probably my preferred of the 3, just because I know historically I think he's got the most pedigree Supercoach wise. Then it's probably going to be Asako. I like the fact that he's goal kicking. It does help having the goal kicker. And then Tabuai Fidow maybe could be an option. So I think if you are looking at either one of the 3, Nickel Klukstad is my favorite. Then it's probably Asako. Then it's probably Tabuai Fidow. But as I'll say, I think I want to wait and see because if Tabuai Fidow kind of returns to tight, lower base stats, that might put me off again. And also remember, round 2, more important for price changes. Flash Green is very happy about the Raiders. Raiders, woo yeah, woo yeah, woo. I say Raiders, woo yeah. I like the spirit from Flash there for his Raiders, for the green machine. All right, so next section. So this is on the second row forwards. So I see a question from Bailey saying near Corey out, minutes worry me. So yes, what I wanted to put together here was kind of the more popular mid-range second row forwards, as well as some of the cheaper ones like the Matt Dury's, Cartwright, Jackson Ford, and a lot of the mid-ranges that we were thinking about, but I have also added in Josh King because he did so well last week. So I've done a bit of a color shading as well, just logging their minutes from last week and also their base stats, as well as also their PPM for those base stats. So one thing I will point out is obviously Josh King and Tom Gilbert come out the highest for base PPM, but remember that they are middles. So their PPM is generally going to be higher than the edge players. So I would just keep that in mind. Obviously the minutes for Gilbert were down at 50. It seems as though Gilbert's minutes, 50 minutes, kind of seems as though what he's going to get. So, 47 points in base, 49 round one score in total. That seems as though he's going to be around that. So, for me, I don't see as much kind of upside on someone like Gilbert. So that's probably why I wasn't too keen on him. So I don't know too many people. I think people started to cool off a little bit on Gilbert. But I think we kind of saw what we will get from him. Teague Wilton. So obviously a big update from the Sharks this week is that Wade Graham has been suspended for 4 weeks. Now, Wilton still played 80 minutes irrespective of Graham being on the bench last week anyway. So Graham came on and he played as a middle. So I think it's encouraging for Wilton. So again, any of those Garner sellers, I think Wilton is a decent grab because, base stats of 49 in the 80 minutes that he played. So 50 without any major attacking stats is fairly solid from a 490k guy. It's similar to Gilbert. The thing with Wilton though is that he does have that attacking upside. He scored that try without a line break. We saw in the trials, he scored a double. So I think Wilton is a good option. If you are looking to sell Luke Garner this week, I don't mind that move because I think the minutes were very encouraging for Wilton. And with Graham out for the next 4 weeks as well, suspended, I think that just guarantees Wilton for an 80-minute role, at least for the next month. But we already saw it last week as well, even with Graham on the bench there. So, pretty encouraging, I think, for Wilton. So I think he's a good option in your mid-range if you are looking to sell the likes of a Garner. Corey Hawiranara, if I pronounce that correctly. Again, minutes, they're okay, 66 minutes, but not a great PPM. And I think, for me, just never too keen on the Raiders roulette anyway. So he's not really an option. Now, Egan Butcher. Let's talk a bit more about Egan Butcher. I think a lot of people, I've put a question below me that I got from Twitter as well. Egan Butcher replacements. A lot of people looking to sell. I personally would not be selling Egan this week. I mean, what was encouraging was the minutes, 69 minutes. And remember, that's with the sin bin. I'm pretty sure if you take out that sin bin, I think he was going to be guaranteed to play the 80 minutes. And he's got a pretty decent PPM for an edge back rower. You can see 0.7. It's one of the higher ones actually for the edge back rowers. Actually, looking at the edge back rowers, it is actually the highest PPM for the edge back rowers we've got on this list here. Because the next behind him is, I think it's Katoa with 0.69. Nice. And then it's Fatal and Mariner. Then it's Wilton. So yeah, good PPM from Egan. And I think I saw some good signs, despite the negative, all those negative points. Like you can see the round one score of 36, but he had base of 48 because I'm not including all those negative stats. Like this is as him just performing. So, 48 points in base, playing 69 minutes. You'd expect that to be 50-55, playing the full 80. Left edge spot is good for attackers for the Roosters as well. I find it very hard to say to sell Egan. I don't think he's a sell. Excuse me, too much talking. So for me, I think the stats really encouraging for Egan. Don't think I'd be selling this week. Not at all. Minutes were encouraging. PPM was good. So not a sell for me. So that question below me, no Egan Butcher replacements in my opinion. I think Garner's really the only one who I maybe would sell this week. Faitala Mariner wasn't too popular. 62 minutes was encouraging. I'm just thinking now his Faitala Mariner's PPM could be better because he may have spent some time in the middle. I may have missed that in the actual game itself. So that could be another reason why his PPM is a little bit higher. But even then, I think at his price, I'd rather just spend up the 20k and go to someone like a Wilton or even maybe a Butcher. Honestly, if you don't have Butcher, it could be a buy. If you're the only reason if you're selling Garner, you probably wouldn't go to Butcher is the buy in round 4. whereas Wilton's is in round 6. But Butcher honestly could still be a buy. Now Josh King, I know a lot of people obviously very keen on Josh King. Played big minutes, 81 minutes, all in the middle. So 72 points in base is what I calculated, which is insane. So even if you don't look at his attacking stats, his numbers were really good. And he actually did this at the beginning of last season as well. He could be someone who maybe we look to get in next week for a quick cash grab if he does really good again this week. I do think the minutes were slightly inflated though. No Tarek Sims, so we still don't have a good idea as to when Sims comes back, does he take a middle spot and maybe interrupt minutes for someone like Josh King? I know last season Josh King, when Tui Kamakamika was in the squad, that really did impact Josh King's minutes as well. So for me, again, I want to wait and see what happens next week. If he goes out and scores 100 again, we'll probably just buy him just because we know that he's going to make a bunch of cash. Tuolangi, I don't think was too popular. He's got a buy this week, so I think we can kind of skip over him, in my opinion. But Niokore, so yeah, let's chat a little bit about Niokore. So I'm looking at, whose question is it? Someone asked a question about Niokore. Sorry, I can't pronounce the name. It's Qunxa. So what will I be doing with Niokore? I'll be holding for this week because the talk coming into the preseason was that he was going to play like 70 plus to 80 minutes. Didn't happen for the Warriors. Only 61 minutes he played last week. So PPM also wasn't amazing at 0.56. So yeah, I want to see again minutes wise, because Curran only played like 20 minutes. If Niokore again plays 60 and bangs out like another 30, 35, 40, yeah, he'll probably be a sell for me next week. But I feel like I don't have enough information to confidently say, yes, I'm going to sell Niokore, because one, I've only got like 45k in the bank, so I could maybe get to, well, I can't get to Butcher and Wilton, who would probably be my two preferred ones. I can go down to Eli Katoa. The thing with Katoa though is his stats also were a bit different to what his normal type is, right? Base stats of 58 is what I calculated. There was a few negative stats for some missed tackles, and I included the missed tackles. I think it's just a couple of penalties he might have given away or some errors. But yeah, 58 points in base in 84 minutes. Minutes are very encouraging for Katoa. Not quite what we expected either, but I guess it makes sense if you think about Bromwich and Kafusi. They used to play full 80 minutes for the Storm. So Katoa is definitely on radar, someone that I might trade down to next week for Niokore. But I want to see minutes again this week. But I can see myself very easily selling Niokore. I think if it's another 60-minute performance, another 35 points, he'll be a very easy sell for me, I think, next week. And it probably would be down to maybe a Katoa, maybe Trent Loiero, depending on how he goes, because he was also okay base stats wise, 49 points. Katoa would be my preference out of those two though. He had better work rate and actually has normally what we think is better upside. And Jackson Ford could be a big trade in target as well for next week. Played the full 80. 39 in base isn't fantastic, but he did get some attacking stats. So he got a line break and some other attacking stats thrown in there as well. So 39 points in base isn't fantastic, which is why I'm also like not just going to jump straight away on someone like Ford, because if it's a 39 performance next week, let's say he gets 40 points in base but nothing else, then it kind of tempers your feeling on buying him, right? So that's another reason why Ford I don't think is I think he'll be okay. If he does another 60 something points, yeah, probably a good option to trade in next week, but no certainty on the minutes I think at this point either. Current only playing 19 minutes is really, really strange. Another thing as well to mention with the Warriors is, what's his name? Jazz Tavanga should be back soon, like in the next couple of weeks as well. So he could come on as a middle. So yeah, the pack is stacked. I really feel like it's Sohu Harris, who I haven't mentioned yet in the stream, absolutely smashed it. He's probably the real safe one. He's someone who I do think I may want to bring in round 3. Because my front row forward is Welch and Oichkamanu. Oichkamanu's minutes were good at 50, but didn't pump out that big of a score. So for me, I could be seeing myself with, let's say Niokore down to Ford, To'o down to Miller, or To'o down to Nickel Klukstad, Pele up to like a Tohu Harris. that's something I've been thinking about for trade round 3 maybe. This week, though, I haven't really thought about too many trades, though. Foz says nothing on Kepi. Sorry, I probably should have included Kepi in this, but just looking at Kepi's stats for you. So we'll do some on-the-fly math here. So he's got 40 points. I think his minutes were about 39. Of his 40 points, 19 plus 21. Yeah, okay. It was basically 40 points in... it was basically a PPM of 1, put it that way. Base PPM of 1, which is, again, quite good. It's actually better than King or Gilbert. It's just a bit different to what we normally saw with Kepi. So yeah, Kepi could be an option. It's hard though because he has the bye this week, so we get no new information on him. So he's probably someone who I think maybe you see again in round 3 before he changes price in round 4. So I started with Kepi, as you guys were aware from last week, but I moved him down to Moali when I found out that Kepi was benched, and I think it worked out fine. I created a little bit extra funds. And Moali scored okay and looks hopefully good for minutes as well moving forward. A few questions about Hopgood and will he play 80 minutes? Now, I don't Hopgood's not on this list here because if you don't know Hopgood, just get him. Sorry, can we not call him Hopgood, by the way? Hop God. Absolute king. Smashed it. 101 points in base and power. Ridiculous. Him playing 80 minutes, I just wonder if it was kind of game state. Because I think, was it Makatoa for the Eels? I don't think he got on at all in that game. I just wonder if they were like, this guy's absolutely killing it. We just need him on the park as much as we can. Because my expectation would have been 60, 65 minutes from him. Which, look, at his PPM is still banging out 75, 80 points, right? So I don't think it's a massive deal. But I can see why people are looking at it. Because I think he could be a captaincy shout this week, obviously. Or even a vice captaincy shout. So my feeling was he wouldn't play the full 80, but it is a tough game against the Sharks. So we could see another thing where he's just playing, those big minutes. Alrighty. So I think that's probably... I haven't really spoken about Cartwright and Dury. So Cartwright's stats were pretty good. 51 points in base in the full 80 minutes. So very encouraging there. Lots of run points. But again, my hesitancy with Cartwright is that Sean Lane, when he comes back, which would be round 4 or 5, I think he's just going to take Cartwright out of that team, and then Cartwright will be on the bench, and I just see that he's going to be someone you have to trade out again very soon. The reason I started with Dury is, look, he played pretty good minutes. PPM was a bit trash though, if I'm going to be honest, 0.45, so only 33 points in base in those 73 minutes. With Dury, he just seems a bit more secure longer term. So I'm just hoping for, playing outside of Moses, puts him over for a try, has a couple of good weeks that he strings together, makes 100, 150k, and then I just sell at that point. That's ultimately the idea with Dury. But I think if you don't own either, I don't think either of them are absolute buys this week. Definitely ones that you can wait and see again. I think that's everyone on this list of players, so hopefully that was useful. So I'll quickly touch on Munster replacements, because I know there were a few questions on Twitter. It's really tough, I think, for Munster replacements. To be honest, the 3 that I prefer the most would be Brimson, Ezra Mam, and Kalen Ponga. So, with the news of Nico Hines likely or maybe not being available until round 5, I think it probably means, it's good to lock in someone. Like, I do think Munster is a sell. I think it's just too much money to be holding for 2 to 3 weeks. So, and the question is, who would you replace with Munster if you already own Dewey? So, for me, Brimson, Ponga, or Ezra Mam would be one of the options. Brimson's obviously got a good game this week against the Dragons before it's Melbourne Cowboys and a bye. So I don't love that, but it could mean that in round 5, he's a nice easy swap back to Munster. What I like about Ezra Mam and Kalen Ponga is that they've got no bye, so it's kind of easy to hold him. Because the thing with Hines is that, yes, he could be due in round 5, but there could be setbacks. So the guy that you're bringing in, maybe someone you just need to hold for longer than you expect, which is why I like someone like Ezra Mam. He was really good on the weekend against Penrith. Good price at 580k. He had a pretty solid floor last season when we all kind of jumped on him. So I think he's not going to get you any bad scores. And I think Broncos draw is really good after this week. I mean, it's a home game against the Cowboys, so I think he could do well. Then it's the Dragons, Dolphins, Tigers, Raiders, Titans. Like, I think it's a really good draw for the Broncos. So I don't mind Mam as a bit of a pod shout, especially if you're not comfortable with Ponga and the potential concussion risk with him. But yeah, Ponga's... Oh, Siri, shut up. Ponga's got a better draw, I think, in the short term with Tigers, Dolphins, Raiders, Manly and Warriors. Although Manly, we might have to rethink that. They are looking a little bit better. So it's one of Ponga or Ezra Mann for me, actually. A couple of people I think are mentioning Matt Moylan. So, Steve's mentioning Matt Moylan, but in the context of Matt Drury potentially doing well. Yeah, so I kind of like Ezra Mann. I liked what I saw from the Broncos. I think they'll be up for that game against the Cowboys at home. Then I like their draw a lot. Lots of home games in there too. Dragons at home, Tigers at home, Raiders at home. And then Dolphins and Titans are both in Queensland. So they're not leaving Queensland for the next bloody 6 weeks. So no travel for them, which is good. Yeah, I do have some hesitancy with Ponga and the concussion risk. Ponga's objectively probably better. Like, I think he looked quite good. But if you are someone who's uncomfortable with that, I'd probably lean Ezra Mann, just if you want to be a little bit more safer with your pick. But Ponga's the exciting one, who's the proven gun with the upside. So Ponga probably just about number one for me. Then I'd probably say Ezra Mann. Then I'd probably say Brimson. The problem with Brimson is the fact that he's got that tougher draw coming up. Tom Dearden obviously has a good draw, but like, look, he played really well on the weekend for the first half. 29 points. Like, I just don't think he's quite got the game. Supercoach wise for me, I've included Walker. That's Cody Walker. But again, only 30 points. I think with Latrell getting better and better, I feel like Cody Walker's getting worse and worse as a Supercoach option. So Cody Walker with a tough draw doesn't quite stack up for me. And I wouldn't probably move to Burton either. I've got Dylan Brown at the top of the list there, but I think, again, only 32 points in round one. Toughish draw as well. So someone I personally wouldn't be looking at, I think, just yet. So for me, it's probably Ponga, Ezra Mann, and then Brimson in that order. Okie dokie. So I'll take a quick look at trade activity. But to be honest, I think I've kind of spoken about a lot of these players already. So I don't think we need to go into it too much. Dewey as the second most traded in, as Clone Commander says, genuine captaincy option this week as well. So yeah, I don't mind Dewey as a trade-in. Asako, I feel like definitely can wait. 9,000 people haven't brought in Hopgod, excuse me. 9,000 people haven't brought in Hopgod. 100% need to get him. Ham, I think you can wait. Ponga, I think is okay as a Munster replacement. King, I think can wait. Haven't spoken about Ilias. I think some people maybe via duels are looking to do Munster to Ilias. We saw last season that he was a very frustrating, slow cash cow. He had a fantastic game on the weekend, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a very small sample size. I'd like to see more of that, I think, before I started jumping on Ilias. Nickel Klukstad, looked pretty good, but again, I think that can wait. Jackson Ford can wait. Toa Harris, I don't think you have to wait, to be honest. I think irrespective of who comes back into that Warriors team, the dude is an animal. If you're a Matt Lodge owner and you can move up to him, really, really good. Tool Pro is actually asking about Matt Lodge out. Someone like Junior Paulo, or Paulo, how you pronounce it. Apologies, I'll try my best to make sure I get pronunciations correct. Paulo, sorry, you can see how I slid back into it. I think he played pretty good minutes on the weekend, but again, that game went into extra time, so some of the base stat numbers are inflated a little bit. He's had a poor couple of seasons Supercoach-wise as well, hasn't he, Junior? So, I'm not sure if, what is this? 68 minutes. I mean, the minutes were really good. But remember, he did score a try as well in his score. So, that is probably inflating the minutes to an extent. Yeah, 103 points. It included a line break and a try. If I quickly add up his base stats, 29 points in tackles, and then 29 in hit-ups. So 29 plus 29. 58 points in base is very good. Add in obviously some of the tackle breaks, which are 12 points, and the offloads, which is another 6. So 58 plus 18. 76 points in base is very, very good. But the last few seasons, he hasn't quite been the Supercoach asset I think we would have hoped for. So I feel like he's kind of jumping the gun a bit, but someone like Tohu, I feel like is just so rock solid. Like, honestly, for me, Tohu would be, if you can make that, like Tulpa, for example, if you have Lodge out, and let's say you're unhappy with one of your players, like Niokore, if you did a combo move of Niokore down to forward that let you do Lodge to Tohu, I'd probably say that's fine. Because I think that downgrade is good enough because of the upgrade that you're getting. Steve says, I've seen heaps of Cleary to Ilias. Yeah, no, not for me. Gazaraki says, like the stream for another poem, guys. Yes, please do like the stream if you are enjoying it as well. I can't promise a poem. I need to think of one on the fly, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, we'll see how we go. And yeah, in terms of the trade outs, yeah, Munster's obviously an obvious one. We've spoken about everyone on this list here for trade outs except for Sean Bloor. Don't think he's a trade out unless he comes back and isn't able to play this week due to concussion protocol. So I don't think he's one you have to trade this week. Although, to be honest, he is someone I don't think will hold his place long term. So actually, I'm going to change my statement. I think you can trade him because I think even though he's playing this week, if you can go to someone like Williami, Jackson Ford, Dury, I think they're just going to be better long-term options. So I think you can get ahead of the trades by doing maybe one of those this week. Perham, yeah, look, Storm this week, it's a tough matchup. I feel okay trading Perham out, I think, as well, to Nickel Klukstad maybe. But if you started with Perham, maybe just have another think about why you started with him. See if you can think about that, and then that might help you in just terms of holding him. Like my car says, for example, is CNK for Perham and Warbrick for Khan good, or should you stay with Khan Pereira? Now, this is a tricky one because I think Warbrick is a must cheapie, but I don't think Khan has to be sold. In your case, my car, I would actually just do Perham to Warbrick, because I do think Warbrick is a play this week. So can you just not do that one trade and save yourself like 180, 70k, and maybe you can get CNK next week. But you at least, because I think Warbrick will be someone you'll look to trade in next week anyway. So I would maybe just get it one trade ahead and do that, Perham to Warbrick. Corey Allen, now with Manu back in the squad, is not going to be an option. And Adokar, I was never really too keen on him either. Okay, last little bit before I get into some questions is on captaincy. So guys, what I'll do, I'll spend another 5-ish, maybe a couple of minutes talking about captaincy. I don't think I'm going to be able to work out the tech to show my team, but I'll post something on YouTube ideally, or I'll post something on Twitter with my team. But honestly, I'm not planning on making trades this week, so my team is not going to massively change from last week. Only thing that will change, to be honest, the only thing that will change from last week in terms of my team setup, Turbo's out with a bye, so I can't reserve him. Khan Pereira is not playing in my 17. Warbrick will play because it's the Bulldogs. And so I think I need to make up one more reserve. So I will probably play... I might play Mawali, to be honest, because, yeah, thin forwards for the Rabbitohs. That's honestly, I think, the extent of my team changing. And obviously captaincy, which we'll talk about right now. So I haven't got a picture of Hopgod yet, but I've listed below me. Definitely someone you can consider as a vice captain. So, yeah, he's an option. For me, I think the safer options to vice captain are going to be Cleary, Latrell, or Tedesco. I know Latrell's got a tough matchup with Panthers, but the guy seems to be matchup proof, to be honest. And I think he's got the upside of the goal kicking. Like, he punched out 73 points, like, casually, I think. He set up one try, goal kicked, a few tackle breaks, and, got to 73 points. But similar with Cleary, no major attacking stats apart from that dubious line break assist, 53 points. So I don't mind Cleary just as a very safe VC. Maybe Teddy if you can make the loops work. If you've got Manly players that you can loop with. I don't mind Teddy as a VC. Now, in terms of captaining Teddy, I'm hesitant. I know Roosters got ambushed. It's a home game against the Warriors, so it looks good on paper. But we looked clunky. Our middles are weaker this week. Warriors pack is awesome. I'm hesitant on captaining Teddy this week. I have a feeling that I'm not going to captain Teddy. I might VC him, but I don't think I will captain him, if I'm being honest. I'm just going to have a quick look at captaincy stats as well on the website. So, And bearing in mind, a lot of people don't change their captains or their team setup at this point. It's only Wednesday afternoon. But currently, the most popular captain is Cleary at 22%. Teddy's next at 20%. After that's Harry Grant at 8.8%. Latrell 5.2%. Val Holmes 4.6%. I actually haven't got Holmes listed here. Only reason I didn't have Holmes here as an option was just I think Broncos, Cowboys, Queensland Derby maybe a bit harder to predict. Dewey at 3.8% captain, who's actually my captain at the moment. He's 3.8% captain, and then it's Murray at 3.4%, Fafita at 1.9%. So and then Hopgod is a 10th at 1.5%. Munster's there at 9th, but I think obviously he's injured, so I think people just haven't changed their team yet. So Hopgod is in the top 10 most captain players, but very low at 1.5%. So yeah, I'm seeing a few people saying VC Cleary, C Teddy for me. That's from Steve. Someone saying VC Grant, captain for Fafita. Yes, also an option as well. Holmes captain. Yeah, just no, Holmes isn't playing the Titans. It's the Broncos, A2D2. Grant, a risky captain. Yeah, the thing with Grant, so I think it's who's on the bench for the Storm. There's someone on the bench who could maybe take minutes off Harry Grant. Let me quickly bring that up again. It is a good matchup. I mean, the Bulldogs at home looks very good. I mean, the bench is Bronson Garlick, McDonald, Penne, and Jordan Grant. So, yeah, I mean, they could obviously... What they could do is Wishart to hooker and... well, actually, what will they do there? If they run out as they're named... I know Wishart can play some dummy half. Can Bronson Garlick play any dummy half? I don't know much of him, to be honest. I mean, I'm looking at that bench. I'm thinking Grant looks good for 80. It is a 4-forward bench, so maybe there is a bit of a rotation there that I might not be aware of. Yeah, so Grant could be a captaincy option. Again, I don't think I'm going to captain Grant because no Munster. I just wonder how good they're going to be. But God, it feels good to captain someone like Grant, especially if he plays well. For me, I'm actually tossing up Dewey or Fafita as captain this week. For me, Dewey, I just like it's another home game against the Knights, who didn't look crash hot against the Warriors. The fact his goal kicking just means that even on a bad day, he can punch out like 50, 60. Garlick's a dummy half. Okay, thanks, Ian. So maybe there's some risk there of 80 minutes for Grant. It might be 65, which obviously you can still do damage in, but it does give you maybe enough pause for concern. For me, Dewey, though, goal kicking, like base stats are solid. So like I feel like I'm not going to get a bad score out of Dewey. Like I think on a bad day, he might get me 50, which is obviously not great, but that's what Teddy got me last week. And I think the upside is there with Dewey. So for me, I am currently on Dewey captain. Fafita, I toyed with Fafita. Captaining Fafita is an absolute roller coaster, isn't it? But yeah, the thing with Fafita is that I think Foran is somewhat in doubt. I think the latest news was that it was like a serious cork that he got. If he's confirmed to be playing, that makes Fafita very tempting, because like Foran seemed to unlock Fafita. I just don't know if I can live with Fafita as my captain. The guy is so rocks and diamonds. I think Dewey's safer, but has an equal ceiling. So I'm happy with Dewey captain, I think. I think I will stick with that. Yeah, Jerry makes a good point as well. Appy surely is fitter this week, because I feel like Appy didn't play very many minutes last week, did he? I think with more Coruscant on the field, that should only make the Tigers attack better. I just love that everything was going through Dewey as well. Like Brooks didn't have the best performance. Dewey was awesome. He's so integral to their attack. For me, like I want to captain that player who like everything goes through. Yeah, Coruscant played 46 minutes, so that might step up to 55 minutes potentially. 10 more minutes of Coruscant is going to be good for Dewey. So yeah, I'm pretty keen actually on Dewey captain. Ian saying Fafita 130 plus 2 tries. Look, even if I don't captain him, but he goes 130, I'll be delighted with that. Pod captain and Tino. No, I'm not personally too keen on Tino captain. I just don't think he's got that ceiling. Incentia says, surely the Roosters demolished the Warriors after that performance last week. Look, very good chance they do that. I just don't like the forwards that the Roosters are rolling out this week. That's another reason why I'm a bit concerned with Teddy. So I might VC Teddy, but if I VC Teddy, I don't think I've got an option to to loop him with, because Turbo is my only Manly player, and they're in the same position. So I might have to. I don't think Teddy's actually going to be a VC option for me. I think I have to go either captain or nothing on him. So I'm thinking maybe a VC Cleary. And then, Panthers could obviously bounce back as well. I think they are playing at home again too. So I might go VC Cleary, and then depending on how Cleary goes, I might then just make up my mind on Teddy or Dewey. But at the moment, I am thinking Dewey. I know a few people are talking about Campera, not as a captain option, but as just a play option. Very easily could do well against the Dragons. But I think what we saw last week was that defense was pretty good overall, I'd have to think. And, coming off a bye, Dragons should be fully fresh. So I just the base stats of Campera just concern me. If he goes and scores a double and I haven't played him, so be it. I'll take the chance with Warbrick, who scored 30 in base stats. And look, if Warbrick gets a try, on top of that, he should get close to 60, and he himself has a good matchup. So I think my starting centers this week would be Holmes, To'o, Taruva, and Warbrick. So that's probably how my centers are going to look. But yeah, that's my take on captaincy. Obviously, you could easily just do VC Hopgod, but I want to take maybe the upside of Cleary. So for me, I think I will end up going VC Cleary and then captain one of Teddy or Dewey. Alright guys, so that's it for the... Before I wrap everything up, I wanted to do a quick shout out as well for the YouTube members. Really appreciate all their support. So Tom, Benny, Dino, Don, Jason, Alexander, Gazaraki, Tyler, Michael, Gary, Cheese Tomato, Mark, James, Roosters, James, that fat guy, still my favorite username, Moz and Mitchell. Thank you all. I saw some of you in the live stream chat earlier as well. Really appreciate you guys for your extra support, but still appreciate all of you guys watching as well for sure. So as I mentioned, I had some tech issues, so I won't be able to show my team, but I'll say it again. It's going to be more or less the same as last week. I just won't play Campera. Excuse me. I won't play Campera. I'll play Warbrick instead. And I will probably do the VCC that I mentioned just before. Alrighty. So I think what I'll do now is we're about 8 o'clock. I'll do about 5 minutes of just straight Q&A. So get your questions in. We'll go through that for about 5 or so minutes, and then I think we'll wrap it up there. And of course, if you guys have enjoyed the stream, if you're watching on replay, do please give it a thumbs up as well if you enjoyed it. Hamish says, what did the VC do? Okay, so VC is just vice captain. So you'll hear me talk about the vice captain loophole. I've got a video actually explaining the vice captain loophole from last season. So that's something that's probably worth checking out as well, maybe after the stream. Essentially, it just gives you 2 cracks at the cherry for captaincy. So if you should vice captain someone early in the week. If they do really, really well, like say they score 200 points and you want to use them as a captain option, you can sub out your captain and you have to captain someone who's not going to play that week. So someone like Turbo is perfect because he's not going to play this week. He's on the bye. And that way you'll get your vice captain score as your captain when the game recognizes that Turbo's not playing. So that's essentially a long story short of the VC. Ponga is your captain this week from Nick. Oh God, I don't know if I could captain Ponga just with those potential HIA things. It sounds like they're really cracking down on that as well. What trades will I be making? Yeah, so I'll mention it again. I don't think I'll be making any trades this week either. I have got money to go Pele to like Shaq Mitchell, but I want to see the minutes again. If Latrell is a late scratching and you need to trade because the second fullback is Turbo, who should we trade to? I would probably just trade to Teddy, just on matchup. And then you can trade one of them back to Latrell next week. Thoughts on Mulatalo to Nico Klukstad and Pele to Tohu? Nick, I like those moves. I know Mulatalo is, he scored really low. He is a gun, but Tohu looks awesome. So, yeah, I don't mind doing those set of moves because I think Tohu is very safe long term. Hold to Tanner Boyd. Yeah, so Logan, I mentioned at the beginning of the stream we had a section in more general on holds, potential buys and watch list. I still think Tanner Boyd is a hold. Good matchup this week. If he kills it, then that's good for his price rises because round 1 is the least important. Goal kicking, didn't really get too involved, but I think that was just a function of how the game flowed. More of the attack just seemed to go down the left for the Titans. He did pick up a try assist. But yeah, look, Tanner Boyd, I think, fine for this week, but I could see people definitely selling for Sonny Luke in round 4 if you've got those duels. But I think for now it could be hold. It's a good week this week for him. Is Cardi good enough to be a reserve? Yeah, I think you can reserve Cartwright this week. I think the minutes seem to be there for him. So I think this week, the base stats were encouraging too. So yeah, I think Cartwright could be I definitely feel more comfortable reserving him over Dury, just based on that work rate I think we saw from last week. How do you feel about Tarpany to Tohu to free up a little bit of cash for cheapies next round? Yeah, Harry, I don't think I like that. I think if you started with Tarpany, I think what he scored 58 points in 49 minutes. I think he's only going to get better. I think if you start with someone like Tarpany, his duel, that one feels a bit sideways to me. I think Tarpany, yes, for the next few weeks, he might not do as well as Tohu, but I think long term, he's going to be someone you want. So I feel like that one could be a save trade. You don't have to do. Konzi says Captain Murray this round. Yeah, 100% Cam Murray could be a captain. I normally just like captaining either those big ceiling guys like the fullbacks or maybe someone with goal kicking like Dewey. But Murray's a very nice, safe captain. I think if you captain him, you're probably going to get 70 points out of him. So I think you can maybe take a bit more of a punt on your VC, but then maybe take it safe with Murray as a captain. But don't mind Murray as a shout either. James says, looking to sell Aaron Clark this week, and would you go Ponga or Ilias? Or any other deals? Could go to a halfback, 5'8", or a hooker. So Aaron Clark, yeah, bit of a pod. I don't know how he went. How did he go? SuperCoach scoring wise. Apologies, I didn't really look into Aaron Clark too much this week. Let's see here. It's kind of one again where I just think if you start with Aaron Clark, like a big pod, could you not, what was the reason for starting with him? And if it's hasn't changed, then again, you could probably just hold because he's not a must sell. What did he play? He played, only 28 minutes from the bench is not great. Let's see here. Only 31 points. He is at an awkward price of 490k. To be honest, James, I think in that situation, I would maybe take the chance and go earlier on Sonny Luke. Because I think Sonny Luke is going to be very popular in a couple of weeks. I think if you can get ahead of the curve on that, it does save you a trade earlier on. And it frees up some cash. I think he's better than Ilias. Maybe Ponga if you want to go for a bit more higher scoring. But if you're looking to just free up cash, I don't mind actually going just to Sonny Luke earlier on. Jackson says, have you got Welch? Yes, I do own Christian Welch. Go check out my final team video from last week. The only difference to that is instead of Kepi, I now have Davey Moali. But that's the only change I made to that team. You currently have Tarpany, but if his minutes are down again this week, you're thinking Tarpany to Welch to free up some cash. Yeah, look, I think again that's something you can wait for this week. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea, potentially. I know the other person was talking about doing Tarpany to Tohu and I didn't like it, but that's because it's more sideways. This one you are freeing up quite a bit of cash, so I mind it less. But yeah, definitely one I don't think you need to do this week. Thoughts on Sam Walker? Yeah, look, I'm a Sam Walker owner as well. I think he should be fine for this week. It's Warriors, still goal kicking, so I'm still happy with him. But yeah, look, come that round 4 bye, I might need to make some moves to move him around. If Toto stinks this round, what do you think about Toto and Brandon Smith to Grant and Hammer? Yeah, look, to be honest, as a combo, if Hammer does well, I can see that being very popular, especially if Grant does well again too. But maybe instead of Hammer, it could be Nickel Klukstad, for example. But yeah, Gazaraki, I think that's going to be quite popular if Toto doesn't do well, because then he's got a buy in round 3 as well, so it feels very easy to sell. Ian says, thoughts on your hot takes? What are your hot takes? Fafita 2 tries, 130 plus, Latrell 80 plus, Cleary 80 plus, Ponga concussion under 40, Brandon Smith 1 try over 70. I like them all except Latrell 80 plus. Can Latrell go sub 60 if that's possible? I mean, none of the takes are that hot except for the Fafita one. I like that hot take though. 130 plus from Fafita sounds very good. Alright guys, I think we'll wrap it up there. Looks like my laptop's having a little bit of issues, probably just heating up. And my throat's actually a little bit sore as well. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for tuning in this Wednesday evening. I will try to pull the audio from this and upload it onto Spotify as well. I know that probably makes it easier for people listening back when they're driving or at the gym or at work or whatever it is. So I'll try to do that tonight as well. So do stay tuned for that if you are looking to listen to it back on audio. But thanks everyone for joining me. Do give this stream a like on the way out as well. See you all in the next one. Cheers.